Losing someone you once loved can feel like your entire world has collapsed. The silence left behind echoes louder than any words ever could. You replay conversations, wonder what went wrong, and ask yourself if you could have done something, anything, to make it different. The pain feels endless, and the absence seems to grow heavier each day. But there comes a quiet moment, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes in the middle of your healing, when you realize you didn't truly lose someone, you found yourself. It takes time to see it. At first, all you can feel is the emptiness, the weight of missing someone who was once your everything. But slowly, as you begin to piece your heart back together, you start to see all the ways you had been disappearing just to keep someone else close. You see the way you made yourself small, so they could feel big. The way you silenced your needs so they could be comfortable. The way you bent yourself in 100 different directions just to be enough for someone who never truly saw you, who never truly saw you. And that realization, that's where you begin to wake up. Because you weren't the one who left. You weren't the one who gave up. You were the one who stayed, who tried, who gave love even when it hurt. And in the end, what you lost wasn't love. It was the illusion of something that was never meant to last. What you lost was a version of yourself that believed you had to earn love by breaking yourself in the process. You didn't lose them. You lost the fear of being alone. You lost the habit of settling for less than you deserve. You lost the need to prove your worth to someone who couldn't appreciate it. You lost the weight of carrying a connection that was never meant to go with you into your future. What you found is far more valuable. You found your voice, the one you used to mute to keep peace. You found your strengths, the kind that shows up when you have to hold yourself through the nights that feel unbearable. You found your boundaries, the ones you ignored for the sake of being chosen. You found your worth, not because someone else validated it, but because you looked in the mirror, even with tear-stained eyes, and saw someone worth fighting for. The beauty of heartbreak is that it breaks you open. It leaves space for the truth to rise. And the truth is, you were never too much. You were never not enough. You were always worthy of a love that didn't make you question yourself. You were always enough just as you are. And now you finally get to learn that, not through someone else's eyes, but through your own, you start to rebuild. You start to speak to yourself with compassion. You learn to sit in your own company and feel peace instead of panic. You begin to trust your intuition, the quiet voice that always knew when something didn't feel right. You stop chasing, stop begging, stop trying to convince anyone of your value. Because now you know, you don't have to fight to be loved. Real love never makes you beg. Healing brings clarity, it brings freedom. And with that freedom comes the opportunity to create a life that feels good to you, a life that reflects who you truly are, not who you pretended to be to make someone stay. You begin to make choices from a place of love, not lack. You stop settling. You stop shrinking. You start becoming fully, unapologetically. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's about honoring the journey that brought you home to yourself. The tears, the heartbreak, the silence. It all had a purpose. It taught you what love is not, so you could recognize what it truly is when it comes. And until then, you are learning to give it to yourself every single day. So no, you didn't lose someone. You found the version of yourself that was buried under fear and self-doubt. You found the courage to let go, the wisdom to grow, the light that was always inside you, waiting for you to come back. This is your beginning, a return to yourself. And that, above all, is the most powerful love story you will ever live. There comes a time in every healing journey when you're faced with a choice, to hold on to the bitterness or to let it go. And it's not an easy choice. The desire to get even, to make the other person feel the pain they caused, can feel overpowering. It feels justified. It feels fair. But what no one tells you is that holding on to anger, waiting for karma to strike, or imagining revenge doesn't bring peace. It prolongs your suffering. Peace doesn't come from evening the score. It comes from choosing to walk away from the game altogether. When you seek revenge or carry the desire to prove a point, you stay tethered to the very thing that hurt you. Wow. You replay scenarios in your head, rehearse conversations you'll never have, and keep your heart locked in a prison built from resentment. You think justice will make the pain disappear, but in truth, it only deepens the wound. It keeps you in a cycle where the past controls the present. Letting go doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean what happened was okay. It simply means you've decided that your peace is more important than your pride. Letting go is powerful. It means you're no longer available for chaos. It means you're choosing your own well-being over someone else's validation. It means you are walking away, not because you're giving up, but because you finally understand what you deserve. When you stop looking back, stop clinging to what hurt you, and start focusing on your own path, you begin to heal in ways you never thought possible. Letting go allows you to reclaim your energy. The time you once spent being angry or replaying memories in your head becomes space for growth. You begin to notice the sky again. You start to hear your own laughter. You find joy in the smallest of things because your mind is no longer crowded with thoughts of how to get even. You are no longer living in the past. You are fully rooted in the present. True peace doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It's quiet, sneaks up on you during a calm morning or a silent walk. It's the moment you realize you're no longer waiting for an apology or for things to be made right. You understand that some people will never acknowledge what they did, and that's okay. You don't need their words to heal. You need your own willingness to move forward. Choosing peace doesn't mean you forget. It means you remember without reliving the pain. It means you can tell your story without breaking. It means you've taken the lessons, honored your emotions, and released the burden. You have faced the darkness and chosen to be light anyway. That is a strength very few understand. Sometimes people confuse letting go with indifference. But it's not that you no longer care. It's that you care about yourself more. You've learned that clinging to what hurts you keeps you small, keeps you angry, keeps you stuck. And you were never meant to stay stuck. You were meant to evolve, to grow, to rise. Peace isn't something that comes from someone else doing right by you. It comes from doing right by yourself. That from refusing to let someone else's actions dictate your future. From realizing that the best closure is not revenge, it's a quiet life lived with authenticity, integrity, and grace. It's finding joy again, creating beauty out of brokenness, and becoming someone you're proud of, even if no one ever says, "I'm sorry." You don't have to prove anything. Your healing is proof. Your calm is proof. Your ability to smile again after everything you went through, that is proof. And when you truly let go, when you finally breathe without the weight of resentment, you'll understand that peace was never about them. It was always about you. Letting go is not forgetting. It's remembering with wisdom instead of anger. It's knowing the truth, honoring your experience, and still choosing to rise above it. It's walking away with your head high and your heart intact. Peace comes when you realize you have the power to create a beautiful life, no matter what was taken from you. It comes when you stop trying to rewrite the past and instead focus on writing a new chapter, one filled with freedom, purpose, and light. You don't need to get even to be whole. You just need to let go. That's where peace begins. That's where you begin again. Healing is not a straight path. It doesn't come with a map or a timeline. It's messy, unpredictable, and deeply personal. One day you feel strong, ready to conquer the world. And the next, the weight of your pain brings you to your knees, and that's okay. Because healing isn't about pretending you're fine. It's about embracing every stumble, every tear, and every breakthrough as part of your return to yourself. There is power in choosing to heal, in choosing to face what hurt you instead of burying it. It takes strength to sit with pain, to listen to your own brokenness, and say, "I will not run from you." The world often glorifies moving on quickly, pretending like nothing happened, showing strength through silence. But the real power lies in the quiet moments, the ones no one sees. When you show up for yourself, even when you feel like falling apart. Healing isn't weakness, it's the most courageous thing you can do. Because it means you're not letting pain define you. It means you're reclaiming your life from the hands of what tried to break you. You're choosing to rewrite the story, not as a victim, but as the one who survived and then thrived. Every time you say no to what hurt you before, every time you choose peace over chaos, every time you choose to speak your truth instead of staying silent, you are healing. And in that healing, you're becoming someone stronger, someone softer, someone more whole. That is where your true power begins, not in perfection, but in the decision to keep going. You may have scars, you may carry memories that ache, but those scars are not signs of defeat. They are proof that you endured. That you felt deeply, that you lived through something that tried to steal your light, and yet here you are, still glowing, still trying, still growing. There is something undeniably powerful about a person who has walked through fire and still chooses love, still chooses hope. Your healing gives you vision. It sharpens your understanding of who you are and what you deserve. You begin to see through the noise, the distractions, the patterns that once kept you stuck. You start to recognize what feels like home and what feels like harm. And in that clarity, you take your power back, not loudly, but fully. You begin to move differently, love differently, breathe differently. People might not see all the work you're doing within yourself. They might not notice the nights you cried yourself to sleep or the mornings you forced yourself out of bed. But you know the battles you fought just to feel safe in your own skin again. You know the strength it took to forgive, to let go, to choose healing over bitterness. And that quiet victory is something no one can take from you. Healing teaches you how to be your own home. It shows you that you don't need to chase love or approval, because everything you thought you lacked already lives within you. You learn how to comfort yourself, how to speak kindly to the voice in your head, how to trust your intuition again. And the more you choose yourself, the more power you reclaim. You stop looking outward for someone to save you. You stop waiting for an apology, for validation, for closure. Because healing brings the realization that you are your own closure. You are your own rescue. You are enough, as you are in this moment, even with all the cracks and bruises. That's the beauty of healing. It's not about forgetting what hurt you. It's about remembering who you are beyond the hurt. It's about becoming someone who honors their past without being trapped by it. Someone who knows that they can rise again, not despite the pain, but because of it. So take your time. Be gentle with yourself. Celebrate the small victories. And never underestimate the strength it takes to heal. Because that strength, that quiet power, it's yours. And it will carry you into a life that is softer, fuller, and more aligned with the love you've always deserved. You are healing. And in that healing, you are becoming unstoppable. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood acts of strength. Many believe it means excusing the pain, forgetting what was done, or allowing someone back into your life. But true forgiveness isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's not about making it okay. It's about setting yourself free from the burden of carrying someone else's actions on your back every single day. When you hold on to anger, resentment, or the desire for revenge, you stay tethered to the wound. You relive it, you feed it. You let it shape how you view yourself and the world around you. Forgiveness doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. It means you are choosing to stop letting that pain define you. You are choosing peace over poison. You are choosing to reclaim your energy, your mind, your heart. Forgiveness is not weakness. In fact, it might be one of the hardest things you will ever do. It asks you to release your grip on something that hurt you deeply. It asks you to accept that what happened cannot be changed, and that justice may never come the way you imagined it. Though you imagined it. And yet, even without that closure, you decide to move forward, not because it's fair, but because your soul deserves peace. There's nothing more powerful than someone who has been hurt and still chooses to heal. And forgiveness is part of that healing. It's the moment you say, I won't carry this anymore. Not because you're letting anyone off the hook, but because you refuse to let your story revolve around pain. You are not the pain that was caused. You are the person who survived it. And in forgiving, you don't erase your story. You transform it. Transform it. Sure. Forgiveness doesn't mean rebuilding a broken relationship. It doesn't mean extending trust to someone who betrayed it. It doesn't mean allowing that energy back into your life. Sometimes the most powerful form of forgiveness is done in silence, from a distance. A whisper to yourself that says, "I release this so I can breathe again." When you forgive, you break the cycle. You stop the bitterness from becoming part of you. You stop replaying the conversations, the betrayals, the moments of pain. You begin to create space for joy, for growth, for love, for everything that couldn't fully enter while resentment lived in its place. You're no longer focused on what should have been. You're focused on what can be, starting now. The truth is, holding on to pain can feel like control, like protection, like a way to keep your guard up so it never happens again. But pain is a heavy armor. It keeps everything out, not just the bad, but the good too. Forgiveness lets you take it off. It lets you breathe without the weight. It lets your heart open again, not recklessly but wisely. You might never get the apology you deserved. You might never understand the reason. But the beautiful thing is you don't need those things to forgive. You don't need permission to be free. You don't need closure from someone else to close that chapter in your soul. Forgiveness puts the power back in your hands. It says, I choose peace, no matter what they chose. Sometimes the most profound healing comes from simply deciding you don't want to be angry anymore. That you don't want to carry the burden of someone else's choices. That you don't want to waste any more of your days looking backward when life is waiting for you to move forward. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's a process. Some days you might feel it fully. Other days the pain returns like a wave. That's okay. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. Keep choosing forgiveness anyway. Keep choosing freedom. Keep choosing to live for yourself, not for the memory of what hurt you. In the end, forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve peace. You deserve clarity. You deserve to move forward unchained. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about remembering who you are and refusing to let what happened keep you stuck 1 second longer. Let go. Not for them. For you. Because your life is far too precious to spend it anchored to pain. You were meant to rise to feel light again, to love again, to breathe freely. And forgiveness is your first step into that freedom. You see, when a narcissist betrays you, they don't just break your trust. They try to break you. But let me tell you something powerful today. You are not what was done to you. You are what you choose to become after it. They will try to paint your kindness as weakness. They will exploit your loyalty, drain your energy, then leave you questioning your worth. But remember, the betrayal reveals them, not you. A narcissist lives in a mask, smiling in public, but haunted in silence. They can betray you, but they cannot outrun their own conscience. They cannot silence the echoes of guilt that speak in the quiet of the night. And you may cry, you may shatter, but you will rebuild. Piece by piece, layer by layer, you will rise. Not because they hurt you, but because you chose not to stay broken. They thought your silence was weakness, but it was grace. They thought your forgiveness was foolishness, but it was strength. And while they chase validation, you will find peace, because peace does not come from hurting others. Peace comes from healing, from letting go, from walking away without revenge, only with wisdom. Let them wrestle with their own shadows. Let them drown in their own emptiness. Because one day, they will realize they lost someone who would have stood by them through every storm. And you? You didn't lose them. You found yourself. Guilt is a quiet companion, one that doesn't need an audience or a witness to make its presence felt. It lingers in the silences, in the stillness of the night, in those quiet moments when there's no one to impress and nowhere to hide. You can wear a smile all day, play the part, and carry on as if nothing has touched you. But when the world goes quiet, guilt speaks the loudest. No matter how carefully a person crafts an illusion, they cannot hide from the truth that lives inside of them. Guilt isn't something you can bury with charm, manipulation, or denial. It doesn't dissolve with time or distractions. In fact, the more someone runs from it, the louder it echoes. It festers in the heart, and while they may try to silence it with blame, with new faces or with fabricated stories, deep down, they know the truth of what they did and who they hurt. When someone betrays another soul, especially someone who loved them unconditionally, they plant a seed of guilt. It may not grow overnight. It may be hidden beneath ego, pride, or delusion, but in time it breaks through the surface, uninvited and unstoppable. Because the truth has a way of showing up, especially when someone pretends it never existed. They may think they've moved on. They may boast of peace, flaunt joy, or even celebrate new beginnings. But peace built in the ruins of someone else's pain is not peace at all. It's a facade, fragile and temporary. Guilt begins to seep through the cracks, reminding them of the hearts they broke, the lies they told, and the trust they shattered. The most haunting part of guilt is that it doesn't just remind you of what you did, it forces you to see who you became in the process. And for someone who prides themselves on being perfect, that realization is unbearable. They may try to rewrite the narrative, casting themselves as the victim, justifying their betrayal, or pretending the other person deserved it. But deep inside, the heart knows the truth. And the heart does not forget. There are no distractions strong enough to erase genuine guilt. New relationships, attention, praise, it all becomes white noise when the soul is restless. Because a betrayal wasn't just a moment, it was a choice. A decision to hurt someone who once would have given the world without asking for anything in return. And when the noise fades, they're left with the weight of that decision. They might try to mirror emotions, pretend they've grown, or mimic empathy. But guilt makes it impossible to truly connect. It stands like a shadow in every interaction, a silent reminder of the love that was once pure and the pain they caused. They may speak of growth, but true growth requires facing what was done and owning the pain caused. And so, guilt stays, not to punish, but to teach. It teaches through discomfort, through unease, through restless sleep, and moments of unexplained sadness. It becomes the quiet truth behind every false smile. It becomes the ache that no achievement can heal. The person they betrayed may have cried, may have broken, may have fallen apart in silence. But in that very silence, healing began. And while one rises, learning to rebuild their soul piece by piece, the other remains stuck, haunted, not by what was lost, but by the weight of what they threw away. Guilt has a way of circling back, not as revenge, not through karma even, but through realization. One day, perhaps when least expected, it will hit. A familiar scent, a memory, a song, a passing face, something will crack the illusion. And in that moment, all the feelings they buried will rise. Not just what they did, but who they hurt in the process. And perhaps the worst part isn't the memory of the act, but the knowing that the person they hurt kept loving them anyway. That they could have chosen loyalty, honesty, kindness, and didn't. There is no peace in betrayal. Not for the one who carries the guilt, because peace demands truth. And where there is guilt, there is truth left unspoken. So, no matter how far someone runs, guilt follows, not as punishment, but as proof that the soul is still whispering, begging to be heard. Betrayal is one of the deepest wounds a human heart can endure. It doesn't just break trust, it breaks something within, something tender and pure. But in the aftermath of betrayal, when the pain feels sharp and the confusion runs deep, there is one truth that becomes your anchor. What they did is a reflection of who they are, not a measurement of your value. When someone chooses to deceive, manipulate, or walk away without reason, it feels personal, because it is personal, but not in the way it seems. It's not a statement about your worth, your love, or your efforts. It's not because you weren't enough or didn't give enough. It happened because of who they are when no one is watching, when their mask slips, when their true nature surfaces. Betrayal is not a mirror of your flaws. It's a window into their soul. It's easy to internalize the pain, to ask, what did I do wrong? Or, oh, why wasn't I worth honesty, respect, or loyalty? But that's the lie pain tries to whisper. The truth is, someone else's inability to love you purely has nothing to do with how lovable you are. Their choices, their actions, and their deception were never about you. They were about their own shadows. And if they couldn't see your light, it's only because they were blinded by their own darkness. The beauty you offered, the loyalty you gave, the kindness you poured out, those things were real. They were honest, unfiltered pieces of your soul. Betrayal doesn't cancel out the purity of your intentions. If anything, it makes them more powerful. Because you loved in a world where people play games. You stood true while someone else wavered. That's not weakness. That's strength dressed in vulnerability. And in time, when the dust settles and the ache becomes quieter, you'll begin to see the betrayal differently. Not as a reflection of failure, but as a redirection. It didn't happen because you lacked something. It happened because you were too much of what they couldn't handle. Too sincere, too real, too grounded in truth. Some people run from what is good, not because it's wrong, but because it demands them to rise, and they aren't ready. You'll realize that it wasn't about being chosen, it was about choosing yourself. You'll stop asking why someone broke you, and start asking why you kept handing them the pieces. And when you begin to pick those pieces up on your own, something shifts. The pain, the betrayal, it becomes your teacher. It shows you what you truly deserve by highlighting what you should never accept again. You are not broken because someone couldn't see your worth. You are whole, always have been. Someone else's inability to honor your heart does not take away from its beauty. You are not made less by the way someone mistreated you. You are made stronger, wiser, more compassionate. You carry scars, yes, but those scars tell a story of survival. of rising, of choosing to love again, even when you had every reason to shut down. The truth is, betrayal strips away the illusion. It reveals who truly stands beside you when everything isn't perfect. And when someone betrays your trust, they reveal themselves far more clearly than they ever did before. That moment of pain becomes a spotlight on character, yours and theirs. And what it shows is this: you were real, you were honest, you were loyal. So let the betrayal be a mirror, not of your flaws, but of your growth. Let it reflect how deeply you love, how fiercely you stay loyal, and how bravely you open your heart. Let it remind you that your standards matter, that your heart is sacred, and that you deserve someone who sees your worth without having to be reminded. You may have been betrayed, but you are not the betrayal. You are the one who rose from it. With your dignity intact, your soul still radiant, and your heart, maybe a little guarded, but still beating with hope. You are not defined by who walked away, but by how beautifully you kept walking forward.